Hi guys, welcome back. I was just trying and helping Simon to join in. He's kind of a little new to Instagram and he was trying to do a video call. But unfortunately, if we do that, then you would not be able to see us. So I now see him and I'm quickly going to add, without any further ado, let's add in Mr. Simon Phillips. Yes, sir.
Well, that was lucky.
Yeah, good morning once again, and welcome to the Zildjian India official India page now.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you, Simon, for your time, and a big thank you from all of us, all the drummers out here in India. We are super excited, to have a chat with you, and we've got a lot of questions for you. So I hope I can fit all that in the next 60 minutes.
Okay.
So tell us, how are things back there, and how have you been doing?
Well, it's life with COVID. Where I live, I'm very lucky to live in outside of Los Angeles in a lovely little town. So we're a little bit more protected here. There's not so many people, so there's not so much contact. And myself, I mean, I haven't been anywhere. I literally haven't been anywhere. The last time I flew on a plane was February the 28th, 2020.
Wow.
And I went to LAX 2 days ago to drop my son off at the airport, and wow, I mean, it was half empty. I mean, it was lovely actually,
Right.
but yeah, it was weird. So, I've just been any live. I haven't played live for a year and a half, over a year and a half, but I've been doing a lot of recording and quite a bit of production and a lot of mixing actually. As you can see, I'm in my studio right now.
Yes.
Just trying to make the best of it. Really am, just like everybody else. And
Really.
I think we're very fortunate here. I know that other parts of the world are not so fortunate, and it's been very tough. And it's been really tough for, I think, I mean, every musician. It's just been ridiculous,
Really
So,
true.
yeah.
I remember watching you at the Catalina Jazz Club in Jan 2020 when I was visiting NAM, and I was able to see you and the band live at the club. So I was pretty fortunate to see that part in 2020.
Yes.
And incredible as always. You guys sounded so just fab. So.
Thanks.
So Simon, let's start off with your connection with Zildjian cymbals, and how did that happen, and when did that happen, and for how many years you've been playing Zildjian cymbals?
Well, I think I bought my first Zildjian, which was an Istanbul K, which was not quite 20 inches. It was like 19 and a half, and it was a ride cymbal. And I bought it from a magazine called Exchange of Mart in England, in London, probably in 1969. And that was my
Wow.
first Zildjian cymbal. And I was, oh, wow, And then slowly, okay, so in England in those days, it was unusual to be able to afford to buy a brand new cymbal, unless you were, a total pro and doing, a lot of studio work and everything. So you had to rely on the secondhand market. And so I would look occasionally when I think I had, got enough money saved away for another cymbal. I'd look online, not online, in the Exchange of Mart. And the next cymbal I got was a 17-inch Crash that used to belong to a drummer called Frank King. And those who are old enough in England will know who that is. And I think my first pair of hi-hats were a new pair of 14-inch New Beats, and they were bought on behalf of I had a manager at the time who was my father's manager, and we were doing a recording session for some sort of, I guess he was trying to do a solo project for me. I was
Right.
13 or 14 years or something. And we were doing a cover of Shaft. That's a lot of hi-hat work. And I said, my hi-hats are not good enough for this. So he went out and bought a pair of 14-inch hi-hats. And
Nice.
those 14-inch hi-hats stayed with me all through my early career, right up until they were stolen in 1970, I want to say 75, outside Air Studios after a session. And my whole cymbal case and traps case was, stolen out of the car.
Wow.
Well, it was London in the 70s, Park a car, probably get stolen.
Right.
So, but moving on to actually becoming an endorser, it was 1979. I was asked to play with Stanley Clarke on his US tour. So I flew over to Los Angeles. We rehearsed. I was actually using another brand of cymbal at that point. Just, it was kind of a flirtation with another company for a little bit. But really, my heart was always Zildjian, because all my idols played Zildjian. And I received a letter from Lenny DiMuzio from Zildjian Boston inviting me to be an endorser.
Wow.
And that was it. Now, we were on the road, so the only moment we had was we got to Houston, Texas, and we went to a place called Parker Music, something like that. And that's where I met somebody who became a very good friend and then ended up working at Tama a few years later, Joe Hibbs, and he ran the drum department. And I went in with my drum tech at the time, Bob Graham, and with this letter, and Lenny had called Joe, and there's Joe, very kind of suspicious, because he's looking at this 23-year-old kid, basically. Really? This guy's a Zildjian endorser? How's that possible, So I selected a whole set of cymbals and invited him to the show. And after the show, of course, he took me out to a lot of blues clubs, and we became friends for life, actually, So that's how I got involved with Zildjian. And I then, at the end of the tour, made a little detour to Boston, visited the factory, met Lenny, met Armand, met Leon, who was the chief Zildjian kind of cymbal chooser.
Tester.
Yeah. And, changed out a few cymbals and found some really interesting ones, which I still have. And that was it. Yeah.
Nice. Can you talk about what was the first set of cymbals what was the series of cymbals that you bought from the Boston factory?
Well, back then we only had a Vides Zildjian and K Zildjian.
Yes.
That's all we had.
Okay.
And as you know, every Zildjian cymbal is unique. It is different. It's not like other companies where you just get a row of 18-inch crashes and they pretty much all sound the same. And I think because the lack of different lines they had, there was more variation in all the cymbals. So you could really, and I think a lot of these cymbals that I tried in the room hadn't even been stamped yet. I don't think they were like thin, paper thin, medium thin, It was just, you just put a pile there, right, next, next, like this, and go, they're all too heavy. Right, let's take those away. Try these, So, and that comes to the point of selecting cymbals. Selecting cymbals is a very difficult task, because the frequencies in a cymbal, it's almost like pink noise. There's so many frequencies, and it's very complex. And it's one thing hearing a cymbal on its own, and it's another thing hearing the cymbal with the drum kit. Now, I would say back then, that's 1979, I was what, 22, 23? I was still very inexperienced in choosing cymbals. Also, the fact that I hadn't had a lot of experience of choosing from a vast array. You know, you go to Guitar Center, or what I used to do, go to Chassis Foot in London in early 70s or mid 70s. There's only maybe 2 or 3 18-inch crash cymbals. Do you see what I mean? You have much less choice. Less choice
Yes.
can be easier to choose, but you may not get what you want. But after you've listened
True.
to, you know, 10 18-inch crash cymbals, whoa, you need to have a break. So I was taught, somebody told me, I don't remember who it was, you need to select your cymbals rather quickly because you've got to keep those
Hmm.
ears. And it's actually, it's not dissimilar to this, what I do here, mixing.
Right.
You know, don't spend an hour on a bass drum because you will lose all perspective. Do it quickly. I mean, not
True.
too quickly, but keep moving. And then when you've concentrated on the drum end, which of course has the most faders, so therefore does take up longer than pretty much anything else, move on. You know, move on to the bass, move on to, listen to some guitars, listen to some Fender Rhodes, listen to a voice, because otherwise you just lose perspective. And it's very
Right.
similar to choosing a cymbal set. All I would say is be conscious of the kind of drum kit that you have, the kind of drum heads you use, and your tuning, and what kind of volume your kit emanates. Be very careful with your sticks. Choose, always take your own sticks, because the cymbals will sound very different, especially the ride cymbal, depending on the bead. You know, whether it's if it's a little acorn bead or a round bead, you know, it's going to
Right.
change the cymbal totally. And always remember, oh, this cymbal sounds great. It's a 20-inch crash. Hang on a minute. I use a 22-inch bass drum and I got a 10, 12, and a 14. Ain't going to work, because this 20-inch crash is going to just decimate the whole drum kit. And I would say, as a critique, when I go to a club or hear a drummer play, mainly when you hear it acoustically, not so much in a PA, I can go, oof, oh, I wish you'd stop using that crash cymbal. It's drowning out not only the drum kit, but the rest of the band, you know? So it's
Wow.
a lot of it is experience, of course, but you have to be aware of all these factors, you know? I use 24-inch bass drums. A 20-inch ride cymbal is not going to do it, you know? It needs to be a 22, maybe
True.
even a 24. It just depends. So it has to work as a complete instrument, the drums and the cymbals and your sticks, you know?
True. That's a really amazing point. And also, Simon, obviously, over the years, I've seen you've been kind of pretty much set with your setup. You've not moved around, like, whether it's your drums, whether it's the toms, whether it's the octobans, even the cymbal setup has been pretty similar. Is there any, have you been also trying the new set of cymbals which is coming on, whether it's the dries or the sweets, or you are kind of pretty much happy with the Ks and the As?
Yeah, you know, I think after so many years and at a certain age, you just kind of know what you like and stick to them, you know. The series of cymbals I use are the Almond Zildjian series. And
Okay.
most of my cymbals are pretty old, actually, now. Now, I know they don't make that anymore, but we have a few stocks of cymbals that were made, and they keep them for me. Um, I the I like thin cymbals. I like a cymbal that I can put on my finger. My finger doesn't go like that because of the weight, and I
Hmm.
can hit it with my other finger, and I can hear it go. I can hear it expand. You know, it's almost like you open a bottle, you put a wine, you put some wine in a glass, and you swill it around, you smell it, and the smell it expands. You know, um, obviously a new cymbal takes a while to open up, and I remember, and I just don't remember who, but it was either Ed Thigpen or, oh gosh, who was it? uh, Roy Haynes. Somebody said that they, or was it? Oh, you know what? It might have been Art Blakey. So the first thing you do with a new cymbal, put it on a stand, take a pair of mallets, and do a crescendo roll, and really make the cymbal sing and resonate, and then that will help open it up. So that's kind of a nice technique. Now, of course, I don't know how long that's going to take. You might have to do that for a week, but
Right.
you know what I mean? It's like any instrument. Once it's made, it then has to resonate and come into its own. And it might take, it might take a few weeks. It might take 6 months before it starts sounding really good. It's the same, funnily enough, with electronics, with mic pre's. If it's brand new, it actually can take up to a year for all the components to actually start to really gel. Isn't that amazing? Because it's real, it's electrons going through copper and gold and silver and tin, and exciting all those different components, and it affects the sound. I think it's the same with any membrane on a bit of wood with a bit of steel holding it down needs to become an instrument. That's the thing. Until you start tuning it and playing it, it's basically a lump of wood, a lump of mylar, and steel. And that's really all it is. And if it's been made very well, you're going to hold it and hit it once you've tuned both heads, and it's going to sound hopefully very good, and should sound good at different ranges of tension too. But still, it's going to take a while for that drum kit to start to really breathe and work. So I guess going back to the staying with a very similar kit and cymbals, I find it works just for everything. The concept is it's like a piano for me. I don't see it as kick drum, snare drum, tom-toms. And a lot of people do, and a lot of sound engineers do too. One of the first things I do as an engineer is I put the overheads up first. They're the first two faders I put up. First of all, I want to make sure I put them in the right place because every kit is different. And not every drummer sets up very microphone friendly, let's say, You might have a big loud cymbal very close to a tom-tom, and you're on a microphone there and you're trying to get away from the cymbal, but do you see what I mean? So I always think of it as just one instrument, and that is a drum kit. And I can make that drum kit work either playing something which uses everything or just kick and snare. Doesn't matter. So I think that's why I've always stuck to the basic setup. I do a few changes here and there. I might, instead of going 19, 18, 17 for the crash cymbals, I might go 20, 19, 18. Just very occasionally. I might change my China cymbals, the trash cymbal, depending on the song and what is necessary. But yeah, for about 99% of the time, it's the same and has been for years.
Right. Even the hi-hats, because I know obviously you change a lot of snare drums depending on the genre that you play, whether it's jazz or rock. Does hi-hats also change with that, or it remains constant?
No, very rarely. Rarely. Yeah, I just make it work by playing.
Right.
Yeah. The only thing, if the drum kit is set up for 2 or 3 days of sessions, the only thing I'll change really is the snare drum and the tuning of the snare drum. Beyond that, I might dampen the kick drum or liven it up a little bit more, and whether that's the back head or the front head, depending. But frankly, most of the changes will be done in the engineering, and that would be done in gain structure. As soon as you change a snare drum, the whole kit sounds different, because the snare is maybe a louder snare, maybe a quieter snare. So now you have less snare drum flying onto the overheads, So now it's changed the whole perspective of the kit, even
Right.
just a change. And then as you tune it, if you tune it down, you want to get a deeper sound, that's going to sound very different on the overheads. So
Yes.
all affects, one change affects everything. And one of the little tricks I learned was when playing a ballad, and you want to play you want to get a nice, rich, deep sound, then rather than try to change everything, change all the mic gains of everything. Put it up one stop, whether if you're Neve, you're up 5 dB or 2.5 dB, depends on the mic pre itself. Some like APIs are variable.
Yes.
And play quietly. That means no rim shots, center drum, and hit the toms real center and lightly. And the sound is just amazing. You know, so you can change same drum kit, totally different sound on that song because of the way we've changed the gain structure.
Beautiful. That's a great advice. Simon, we're going to go back in time. I want to talk a little bit about your dad. I know he was kind of a very strict musician, and when it came to like reading charts and like, you know, I think he was very particular about you had to like follow the chart exactly the way it was written.
Right.
How did that, like, you know, make you as a musician, and is that the reason you are so particular about everything that you play? It's like it's just there in the pocket, whether it's a fill, whether it's, you know, touching the cymbal, crashing, it's just there. What does it come from your dad?
Yeah, I mean, that was an amazing apprenticeship. And I think what the biggest thing I learned from my dad was, hang on, I'm moving the camera around. I don't know why, but there you go. Is musical discipline. Not to overplay, and to play what's required for that song. And I think that's something I learned really, really early on. I learned as a child. I learned between the years of 12 and 16 about musical discipline. Now, I wanted to go, you know, I couldn't do that then, of course, but, you know, I wanted to play like Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson, you know. But I think one of the reasons I was able at 16 years old to start doing sessions in London was because when it came down to it, I knew when to play and when not to play. It was built in. It had been, you know, ground into me from a very early age. So even if there wasn't a chart, and back in those days, a lot of rock sessions, we didn't have charts. You know,
right.
the guys would do a quick chord chart and we just play. You learn the song. There was no demo. We were the demo. So, and that's how it worked. So it was a songwriter. He had an acoustic guitar. And he went, right, it goes like this. Ding, 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 you know, like this. And we make some notes or whatever, and then we start playing it. And I think the reason that people would call me is because I wasn't too busy. I didn't do all these fills in the wrong places, or even the wrong style of fill. You see, it's playing for the song. So,
right.
Yes, I owe that to my father very much. Even though I didn't like it at the time, I want to play like, you know, I want to play modern swing. And he said, no, 4 on the kick drum, you know, too much ride cymbal. I want it drier, more hi-hat, you know. And you played a cymbal crash. Is that cymbal crash written into the chart? And I look and I go, no. Then why did you play it?
Wow.
You know, it's very old-fashioned, but that's what he required because he was the composer and or the arranger of the tune. He wanted to hear it a certain way.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. Also, when did the whole 2 bass drums and the open-handed setup kind of coming together? Like, obviously, we all start off with a 5-piece drum kit, and you know, were you also playing traditional
5-piece?
grip back then?
We started with a 4-piece.
4-piece, yeah. Right.
In fact,
So,
when I was a kid, I hated a drum kit to have 2 front toms. I was like,
okay.
ooh, you know, because I was so brought up in the jazz, Dixieland, swing, big band, you only had one rack tom and one floor tom. Now, Buddy Rich had two. He very rarely used number two. Louis Bellson used them, and Ed Shaughnessy. But most people in those days, it was a four-piece drum kit. That's what it was. We didn't know any different. And it was only in drum catalogs they started making different sizes. So how did that come about? Well, I was always fascinated by the possibility of having different tonality in the tom-toms. So that was the first thing. And the second thing, double bass drum. And I hadn't heard anyone play double bass drum the way I imagined they should be played until I was watching the Old Grey Whistle Test, which was a music program on BBC television, and it was a live concert of a band called Black Oak, Arkansas. And of course, the drummer was Tommy Aldridge, and I believe he was using a Ludwig kit, which was my, that's what I wanted to get, two 26-inch bass drums. And it was the first time I heard bass drums played the way I had imagined they should sound. And that was Tommy. And that's what did it. It was like, now I get it. And it just so happened at the time I had two kits, and I put them together, took different sizes and everything, and started playing double bass drum. I mean, I didn't know whether I should lead with my left foot or my right foot. I had no clue, but I loved the possibility. And then right after, just after I left Jesus Christ Superstar in October 1974, I had a record to do. It was going to be about almost a month. It was like 3 weeks playing with this band called Chopin. We rehearsed for 2 weeks and then we recorded for a week, I think. I think that's how it was. I thought, I'm going to use my double bass drum kit, which I just put together. It was a Heyman Midnight Blue, 222s, 12-13 rack, 14-16 floor, and I'm still playing right-handed at this time.
Okay.
And there's one song, literally as I was counting in, I was thinking it was a shuffle, and I wanted to play the shuffle as triplets on the bass drums. And I was thinking, which do I start with, left or right? And I went, right. Literally about a split second before I came in. Isn't that amazing? And managed to get through the song like that. And I'd only done it a few times during rehearsals. And somehow it worked. So, and it provided a whole new way of kind of approaching some music. Not every music, obviously, but some music. Then it was a question of adding the tom-toms. Playing right-handed was going to be a hi-hat. Has to be high, or higher anyway, to play right-handed.
Right.
And in order to get that tom-tom in, it's going to be it's ergonomically going to be difficult.
Right.
And I was always, how old was I then? 16, 17 by then. So I was thinking, this is, I don't know. So sometime in 1975, when I was 18, I thought, I wonder if it would be possible. And then, of course, I saw Billy Cobham for the first time towards the end of 74. And I also played a gig with Chopin with Return to Forever. So I saw Lenny White play, and they were both lefties.
Yes.
And I went, oh, that just not about sound. It looks cool. I think we're stuck. It might be my internet here. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Come on, internet, come back. Oh, okay, good, good. All right, there we are. Yeah, my internet here is not the greatest. And yeah, I thought, what a cool way to play a drum kit, left-handed. So I literally relearned how to play drums at 18.
Right, right. Uh, I've heard about this record, but I'm somehow not able to find it online. Which was, I think, with L. Shankar, the violinist, that you had done in
Yes.
1979, which was produced by Frank Zappa. If you
Mm-hmm.
can talk us about that and how did that happen? You know, some stories about that.
Now that's a very interesting scenario. So prior to that, I had met Shankar in New York City with John McLaughlin because I was on tour with Jack Bruce, and Jack and John go way back, and we were invited up to John's loft, and Shankar was there, and that's how we met. We were just hanging, and that was when John had his scalloped acoustic guitar, and I was able to pick it up and just kind of, you know, I don't play guitar, but I'm fascinated by guitars, and I
Right.
went, oh my God, this must be so difficult to play. But I was touching and attempting to play John's guitar at the time. I hope he didn't mind. And I put it back on the stand, and he had a little Gretsch drum kit set up. I think he had a Rhodes or something, so you could jam up there. We didn't actually jam, but we did chat, and I remember having a lovely chat with Shankar. And I had seen Shakti in the year before, 1976, and that was in a way kind of my introduction to Indian music. Actually, I'd always loved odd meters. I'd always loved the tonality because I listened a lot to Don Ellis, who was very into Indian music, and of course I loved John's music, Mahavishnu. So I was
Yes.
already into the style of the music, the lines, the scales, the way they work. I was even trying to learn tabla in 1974 too.
Wow.
I even played on 2 records as a tabla player.
Really? Which
Very,
one? Which is
very
that?
badly. So badly, I wouldn't tell you what records they're on. But I had a pair of tabla at the time. I think I was borrowing them. And not many people in London played tabla, so I got the call. And I mean,
Nice.
literally, I could barely go bing, boom, like this, you know? So very simple stuff, but I loved the whole vibe and the whole approach. And then when I saw Shakti and saw Zakir and Shankar, I was like, oh, wow, what is this, you know? I saw them 3 nights in a row with Billy Cobham and
Wow.
Weather Report. And to me, Shakti was the highlight. It really was. So fast forward to 1979. I had just come back from my first tour of Japan, 1978, with Jeff Beck and Stanley Clarke. I was hanging at home, and I suddenly get a telephone call. I don't know who from. Could you come down to such and such rehearsal place and come and rehearse with El Shankar, with Frank Zappa producing? I went,
Wow.
wow, okay. Yeah. When? Well, today, now? Oh, yikes. Okay, it's going to take me a little while. I got to get my kit and everything. So drove down there. I think at that time, I think I was setting up my own kit in those days. I might have had somebody. I can't remember that. And that was my Octoplus, Ludwig Octoplus. So I turned up at this rehearsal room. I think they'd had another drummer. They'd been in rehearsal for a couple of days and it wasn't working.
Okay.
So I walked in and set up my kit, or somebody set up my kit. I just don't remember that part. Met Frank, who was a huge fan of. Met, of course, again Shankar, and we were like, "Wow, hi," you know. And we met with John many years ago. But yes, 2 years ago, you know. And the first chart was a chart called Darlene, and Frank gave it to me, and I went, "Okay." and it was a ridiculous piece of music. And do you know what? I even remember it to this day. Isn't that
Wow.
amazing? Because it was so, at the time, so tricky, and it was
Right.
like 4, 5, 6. What did it? What did it? What? Right. So it's 3 bars of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 bar of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the first phrase. So
Nice.
I'm just, all I did was it. I mean, I can read music, but I'm not a black page reader. I can't read that stuff because I never really had to. All the stuff I
Right.
did was for making records. So it was, I would say, relatively simple, but high pressure gigs where you had to read it and get it right the first time.
True.
Only thing I could do with this was just read the meter. Read the meter of each bar and play kind of a generic, for me, generic rhythm or pattern that would be in that signature, so I didn't have to count. So if I saw a 7, I just played what I would normally play if I was playing 7, just for that one bar. It's usually
Right.
half. So 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like that. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then when you get your 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, so 8, 9, your 11, 16 bar, that I can subdivide. Da 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 da. So I
Right.
managed to get through this chart, and Frank was like, "Great, you're doing the sessions," and that was it. So that's how we did.
Wow.
Now we
It,
spent 2 days working on that tune because it was tough. And to be honest, playing drums, you get the lighter side of it because all you got to do is play time. You don't have to play any notes.
right.
I mean, it's up to you what notes you play, And the great thing
True.
about a drum kit is if you go 3 inches that way, you're still going to hit the same tom-tom. Now, trying to play guitar and bass and piano, that's a whole different thing, not to mention violin. And we took 2 days to get this one track down. But because of the way that Frank guided it, it sounded the smoothest with all these different meter changes, it just sounded so smooth. And turned out to be a beautiful piece of music. And
Nice. Can you also tell us where we can find this anywhere? Is it still available online, this album?
Now that I don't know, but you should be able to find it as like a secondhand vinyl store.
Okay.
Don't touch me there, I believe is the name of the album.
Yes, I know the
But
album name,
you know that,
but I
yeah.
could not find it on any Apple Music or anywhere out on any
No, probably won't be
platforms.
on Apple.
Yeah.
I have it.
Yeah.
Well, I used to have it on iTunes. Of course, that's now gone to music, and you can't find anything anymore.
Yeah.
But I used to have it, and I used to have the vinyl. But unfortunately, that went with all my possessions of vinyl with the recent fire. So I'm not sure if I
Yes.
still
Yes.
have it. I think I do have it on my computer though. But yeah, it's
Awesome.
a fun album. And Shankar, he wrote it in a restaurant on a napkin.
Wow.
Yeah, he just had the thing, and now writing much more now, composing as I do now, I understand that because that's kind of a little bit how I do it. I sing the ideas. I don't know what meter they're in. I have to literally work it out because I'm just singing them. I'm not saying, oh, now I'm going to write in 7 or now I'm going to write in 11. I never
Right.
do that. I just come up with something, and it could be rhythmic, in other words, a riff, or it could be melody. And the melody is then based along a much more of an Indian type phrase, and I just sing it. I'm not sure yet what meter it's in. So I actually literally have to go with fingers singing it. And it's like if you're sitting next to someone on a plane, you have to ask them to borrow their fingers, and that's how that song Catalyst came up. It came up on a plane. And I was thinking,
Wow.
oh, what is this? You know, and then eventually figured it out and opened up my Pro Tools, put the meter in, and you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah,
Right.
it's a fun album.
Yes. I was coming to my next question was pretty much about how do you make complex music and complex grooves sound so simple and so groovy?
That's okay. That's the secret of any kind of recording. There's this tendency for drummers to make things sound more complex, to make it sound more than it really needs to be. I think it's a question of what does the music need. But so I have let's say two approaches to that. When you're playing regular 4/4, you've got to establish what the groove is and what is necessary to play. Now, let's take a straight rock song, straight 8 rocks. The guitar riff may have a lot of pushes, you know, 2, 3, 4. It's all pushed. Now,
Right.
as a drummer, I think most people's first reaction, oh, I've got to get all those pushes. How about go the AC/DC route and just play like a drum machine, you know? And then how about taking that AC/DC route and then mixing it up with the accents that really feel good when you play them? Now that's something
Nice.
it's going to take years of experience, because otherwise you go, well, should I do that one? Should I do that one? You know what I mean? There's a
Yes.
inbuilt instinct to know which ones to play. And I've sometimes had people say, you know, producer, whatever, oh, you're not playing the accents. I said, no, I'm not. And I said, well, why not? I said, because it's not necessary. Does it groove? The most important is, does it groove? Some of those pushes should just be confined to the guitar or guitar and bass. You don't need to do that. So, and that comes with, there's taste, but there's also experience of how does it sound coming through those speakers, you know? Everybody loves AC/DC, and I've played with AC/DC. Nobody knows about this, but I've rehearsed with them, and I understand totally what their vibe is. You play any of those accents, it's like, no, man, can you just play it straight, you know? And so that was it. So now I take that to playing odd meters. Suddenly we're playing other than 4 and 3. We're playing in 5. We're playing in 7. We're playing in 15. It should not be any different. It should still feel good. And this is I think I think of it as a linear, as a line, right through all the bar lines. And what I like about it is, right, it's in 7, but it feels 4. You can tap your foot. So if you're in 7/8, which is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. That's a 7/4, you know? Yes. So I started figuring out that this feels better, you know?
Nice.
Consistency, that's the other thing. And make it flow, you know? Don't make it, oh, wow, we're going to play in 7 now. And everybody tenses up, and there's no difference between 7 and 4. In my brain, there's nothing. It's what's the music like? That's what makes the difference. So that, I think that's part of it. You got to figure out what really works. And back to composition, I've often changed certain meters of the song because it was unnecessarily complicated. Catalyst, I'll mention that, which is off Protocol 3. Originally, it was all in 17/8, actually. But then there was the bridge section or the B section, and I started playing to the sequence that I put, and I went, this should be in 9. This doesn't need to be in 17. It's too much, and it makes a break from the more complex part, you know. So
Right.
I'll go in there and take 17/8 out, put 9/8, and then have to shift a few notes around for 8 bars or whatever it is, you know. It's very important to know that, you know, when it's complicated for the sake of it, as opposed to it's just a complex piece of music, but it feels great. You know?
Right. I'm going to throw you a couple of questions that we've got from some of our drummers out here in India, especially kind of coming to the whole mixing part and, you know, mixing your own drum sound. When you mix your drums, do you pan it according to the drummer's perspective or the audience perspective?
I always mix audience perspective.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's the engineering side of me, and that's how I learned as an engineer from engineers in that day. I started engineering professionally in 1983, and I blame it all on a gentleman called Mike Oldfield, who amazingly saw that I had something to offer in that area. And he, I think, was tired of working on his own, because he's done, you know, made his own records for years. I think he wanted somebody to work with, but I think he wanted a more musical approach rather than engineering approach. He taught me all about the technical side, and he's incredibly good. I mean, I don't think people realize that he's a very accomplished engineer and knows how to get great sounds out of a console, you know, on any instrument. So thanks to him, he was my mentor, and it's him plus other engineers that I've worked with. I grew up in that era when we used 3 mics on drum kit. You know, we didn't have tom-tom mics. Often, for the first few years of my career, I didn't see a tom-tom mic for ages. It was amazing, and still, the kit sounded fine. You know. Yeah, I'm a little old-fashioned in that way. I always like to look at the band. So if the problem is what happens when you get a left-handed drummer?
Right.
I recently had to engineer a left-handed drummer, and it was so weird for me to have the hi-hat coming out of the left speaker, and you know, the floor toms more to the right. It was like, oh, this is weird, you know. But I'm looking at him, so you gotta keep the. But yes, I always audience perspective. Yeah.
Perfect. You also mentioned somewhere that you don't like using bottom snare mics, and a lot of drummers sometimes kind of prefer to just have that little spring, you know, just when it's required. You know, whether you use it in the mix, that's a different thing. But a lot of people prefer to do that. So, what is that reason of not using the bottom snare mic?
I think it's totally unnecessary. First of all, it's very undynamic. If you hit the snare quietly and loudly, there's very little change in the dynamics. You have a huge phase problem. You've already got a huge phase problem because you've got more than one microphone. So I don't. It's not necessary. I've never liked the tone of it. I don't like to record it because a lot of people don't know how to mix it. They'll mix it too high, and it's the dynamic thing. When you hit a drum quietly, you don't want to hear this rattling going on of the snares, you know. It's unnatural. It's a very unnatural sound. So now, that's not to say I haven't used it. With certain drummers, I've stuck an underneath mic. In fact, it's not usually an underneath mic. It's more of a side mic against the shell.
Right.
I've often used 2 mics on drum. And actually what I do more recently is, depending on the studio and if it has a real console and a real patch bay. If it has a patch bay, then I can parallel. So I can parallel patch the mic line from the one mic, SM57 or whatever it is, you know, and then I can actually mult it to another mic pre, and then I put that through my transient designer. So what that does is it brings out the ring of the drum. So I've got one channel, which is just snare drum top, which again, I never place that mic too close to the snare drum. A lot of people put everything way too close. You don't need to. And then the other mic or the mult from that mic, depends. You can do it. You can tape another mic to it if you don't have a patch bay that will do that. And then I send that to the transient designer, change my attack and release, and then I have all the ring from the drum. So that means when I'm mixing, I can either decide to have a really ringy snare drum or not at all. You know, so it's just another way of doing it. But no, I don't find a bottom snare necessary at all.
Okay. Also, a lot of things have kind of, obviously this whole Atmos mix have currently started off everywhere in the world. Would you have your albums mixed on an Atmos mix? Have you tried working on the Atmos mix as of now?
Oh, Atmos, yes. Now, okay, so when we started doing surround mixing, which came kind of, I believe in the 90s sometime, like late 90s, and especially for DVD, doing live mixes, I loved it, and I loved the whole concept of surround, and I started doing a few surround mixes. I mixed Toto Live in Amsterdam, and that was surround. I had to figure out different ways of doing it because the issue is doing the surround mix and then doing the fold down for the stereo, which is not the best way to do it. It never sounds quite right. So I developed, thankfully in Pro Tools, you can do this. I managed to actually set up 2 separate mixes at the same time on a matrix, and 2 sets of monitors, 1 surround and then 1 stereo. I think, now I've got to remember how I used to do this. I think I even made the left and the right my big monitors, which became the stereo left and right. And then a Genelec 1031 for the center and the surrounds. And it was great because using a Dangerous Music monitor, I could switch instantly between my stereo mix and my surround mix. And that was very, for me, very important to be able to compare the two, you know. But unfortunately, the budgets for mixing live shows and DVDs as DVD sales went down just weren't enough because it does take longer. And then surround kind of went out. Nobody was interested in doing surround anymore. And now all of a sudden we have Dolby Atmos. And I actually just spoke to Alan Parsons the other day, and Alan was asking me, he said, look, you know, if you have any projects, I'm starting to do, I'm getting set up for Atmos. I said, no, I'd love to do it. And I went, wow, okay, you know. So, no, I've kind of decided to stay out of that, the Atmos thing. I'm just concentrating on stereo mix. But obviously I love the technology and the concept and everything. Yeah.
Right. Simon, just a small request. Actually, we've kind of about 60 minutes right now. I have a couple of more questions, and Instagram Live will cut us off any time. Is it okay if I just save this session and restart and just take another few questions?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'll see you in like 2 minutes.
Okay. I'll just stay here. All right.
Yeah. Hi guys, welcome to part 2, and I'm gonna try to add Simon back again. Let's see. Yes, welcome back. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple of questions about, a lot of people were asking about the album 21 Spices that you've done with Trilo Gutu. If you have, if
Yeah.
you can share some experiences about that.
Well, that was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. Um, and but absolutely a wonderful experience. I've known Treelock for a long time, and love him, love his playing, and love his music. You know, I love his albums. Um, yeah, I mean, it was one hell of an experience playing with a big band, the NDR, and
Yes.
playing with and all the other players. Oh gosh, I can see everybody's faces, and it was wonderful that Treelock, you know, invited me to do this. I will tell you a funny story. There's one of the tunes, and I can't remember which one it is. I think it's in 9, and it breaks down to a conical part.
Right.
And I was just listening to the track and following the chart, and so, you know, didn't really say much what I should do. So in our first rehearsal, we break down, and I just play hi-hat, you know, just in 9. And Treelock starts the conical, and he stops the band. He goes, Simon. And I go, yeah. I said, you must do that with me. What? He said, yes, you must play the conical with me. I went, but no, I can't do that. And he said, it's easy. It goes like this. You know, and I'm going, oh, you've got to be. So I went back to the hotel that night and tried to learn this whole. It was, yeah, which was great. I mean, I love that. I love the challenge. There's,
Right.
you know, so absolutely lovely. A really fun album to listen to. It was wonderful to play. Tricky, you know, very difficult, and we had to do it quite quickly. You know, so there's a lot of music to learn very quickly, but absolutely wonderful. And talking of challenges, I saw somebody. It was a question that came up, and he said that my drum kit is like a typical rock drum kit.
Right.
Yet I play with Hiromi with the same drum kit and managed to make it work for that music. So,
True.
and I saw that and went, that's interesting. So first of all, playing with Hiromi, an amazing challenge. And the great thing is that both Anthony and we were up for the challenge. And boy, Hiromi used to push us. I mean, we had rehearsed a song twice. He said, this song? I don't even know the title of the song. What is it called? And we're still looking at charts. He said, yes, we should play this tonight. And I'm going, oh man, you know. So she was always pushing it to learn the music and play it.
Right.
And I love it. I love that challenge. Going back to the drum kit question, that's my point. It doesn't matter what the kit looks like. It really doesn't. Is how do you make it work for all these different types of music? And that's a classic example of that. Now, when that whole project started, and I spoke to Hiromi, I said, look, you want to play acoustic piano with me and Anthony, and I have a double drum kit with two 24-inch bass drums. And she said, yes.
Wow.
I went, okay, fine. Obviously, it was a very dynamic band, and I had to learn to play really quietly. And that was,
Right.
I've never played without a guitar. Apart from playing straight ahead jazz with, you know, my bebop band back in the 2000s, Vantage Point, or way back with my dad, I don't think I've ever played in a scenario without a guitar player. And take a guitar player out of the equation, and you have so much transience. You have a piano, it's a percussion instrument, very transient. You have drums, very transient. And then you have a bass, which is basically monophonic. Very few times Anthony would play, you know, two notes at one or a chord, mainly single notes. So everything appears very loud. There's nothing in the band to soak up that transience, like a keyboard, like a a pad patch, or a big synth patch, or a guitar playing chords. So you feel very exposed on stage. So I started using different size sticks. Wouldn't use my round beaded 707s all the time. I would swap to the other sticks I use for straight ahead. Sometimes I use brushes. Now, in some concerts, when we were playing a very live orchestral place, I would actually lay out because it was just too much. And if it's pissing me off, it's going to be pissing off some of the audience that don't want to hear this loud rock drummer playing with Hiromi, right? They want to hear the more classical stuff. So I just, certain areas, I actually just went, and then laid out and let them play. And Hiromi looks up and goes, and then she goes, oh, okay. And she knew why I was doing it. It was just too much. And then I'd come in with something, I might change something and play a little differently. So it's just quieter. Even pick up a shaker sometimes, you know, just because it's too much in that room. But for most of the stuff, it was fine. And he has a 9-foot piano, and we have a big enough stage. It was absolutely fine. The volume scenario.
Amazing. Simon, going to 1992, you know, when you were getting into Toto, how was that experience, and what was that day one for you? If you can just give us a little idea about how that day went, when the first day you met the band and you were about to replace one of the greatest drummers of all time.
Well, when I flew from England to the States for that first rehearsal, that was actually my last day in England. I was leaving England that very day. And I was leaving the house that I was in and my life basically behind. I was on Virgin VS007, which is the flight from London to Los Angeles. And I had a DAT machine. I had a bag full of this. I had DATs, and I had paper and a pen, and just got the stewardess to serve me glasses of champagne for the whole flight as I'm doing all the charts. Listening on the headphones and, you know, writing charts because I had to, because I didn't have time really to material because I was busy right up until I left. And then Steve Lukather picked me up from the hotel that evening, and we went out to dinner with David Page and Mike Porcaro and Lukather. And yeah, very, very difficult time, obviously, very, very difficult. But Luke was really the catalyst. He was the guy that did everybody together and said, yeah, we're going to do this. And he was amazing, actually, really amazing. I could tell straight away that David and Mike were just, I mean, you know, obviously, they're devastating, you know. Yes. So the next morning, I turn up and we have a good long chat with the sound engineer, because a lot of the stuff I do was very different to what he does. And I have a pretty complex setup in those days with my own mixer and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And a very different drum kit to Jeff as well. And a different sound. I mean, they were all like, what is this, you know? And then everybody turned up, and, you know, I met all the other people from the band, and Luke said, right, what do you want to play first? And I said, let's play Hydra. And they went, oh, we haven't played that for ages. And of course, it's the only one in 7/4, apart from Big to the Bone, with the intro. And they said, oh, okay, let's do it, you know? So we played, I was reading a chart, of course, but and I must say, it did feel amazing. Their time was just incredible, absolutely incredible. And I was just looking around as I was playing going, wow, this is like walking a tightrope, you know? It was so amazing. It was like, you know, wow, this is pretty cool. We finished the track, the song, and Luke's standing there, and he looks at Mike, and he looks at David Page, And he says, I think this is going to work. And that's all he said.
Wow.
And then we started rehearsing, learning the whole set. So it was, and then Mike was he was like, yes, we're going to make this work. And Mike was like, yeah, I mean, for him, it's very different, as a bass player playing with a drummer, not only a drummer, his brother for all that length of time, suddenly to have someone totally different, took a little bit of adapting, but he was very into it and was, really made a point to, help me kind of just relocate to LA too, he was really helpful and really sweet, lent me a coffee machine, and it was great, and then about 2 or 3 weeks into the tour, we're coming back from a gig, and I think it was in Hamburg, in that hotel right on the sea. I can't remember the name of the sea in Hamburg. It's a lake, big lake there. Atlantic Hotel, and we're walking in. He said, "So, how do you feel about joining the band?" I mean, because I was just doing that tour, as far as I knew,
Right.
just playing that tour, and nobody knew what they were going to do. I mean, they didn't know
Right.
what they. Ulster, thank you. I just see it come up a little bit. It's Ulster. Ulster say. That's it. Thank you, Mark.
Nice.
And I went, wow, because by that time I had given up all thoughts of being in a band, because I was producing more, I was engineering more, and I was also putting my solo project together. Wow, join a band, and join Toto. Wow. Well, if I'm going to join a band, it might as well be this one. I think the other thing was I wasn't interested in joining a band just to be a drummer. If I'm going to join a band, because of the whole machinery of how it works and the business end, I want to be involved in writing the music. I want to be involved in the production, because that's what I do anyway. I want to be
Right.
involved to the fullness of my capability in all these different areas, and that's why I was doing my solo project, because I was engineering it, I was mixing it, I was writing. It was more. I had more to do basically, rather than just play drums.
Right.
So I didn't know now how that would work with Toto, but I just thought, well, why not? I've got a whole new chapter of my life. I've just moved to the States, not really sure what I'm going to do actually. This felt like the right thing to do. And 21 years.
Wow.
And I did end up co-producing, co-writing, and engineering the band. So, it was great. It was a wonderful experience.
Incredible. Simon, talking about protocol and your own setup, if you can just give us an idea about how does the songwriting process works, and like how do you go about working on an album with the band?
Well, first of all, I want to say I've just completed Protocol 5. It's all in the bag.
Oh, nice.
It's all on the disc. It's in that disc behind me. Oh, and in that safe there as well, which is fireproof. I haven't mixed it yet, but it's all recorded, apart from just a couple of little overdubs I need to do. Okay, so the writing process. Well, the keyboards, I write on the keyboards right here.
Okay.
I'm not a very good piano player, because I never learned to play, and I'm not a schooled musician in terms of composition or reading music. I mean, keys, chords, I don't even know the names of the chords. It's all done by ear, because when everybody was going to school, I was in the studio doing sessions and working, and I never really had the time to study, and kind of left it a little late. So I do it. It's slow because of my lack of training in terms of being able to play all these different chords. I have to kind of find them. But I would say most of it comes from singing something, and I'll get an idea, and I'll just quickly switch everything on, fire up Pro Tools, open up a session, and figure out. I always keep a rhythm watch right here, so I can tap out the tempo quickly.
Yes.
Find out what it is. In fact, some people might say, well, why don't you do that in Pro Tools? It's the one thing I've never learned to do in Pro Tools, which is activate the time thing, the tempo.
Tap.
It's so weird. I know a lot of all these weird shortcuts, but that's one thing I just never have done. Isn't that strange?
Right.
And I'm just used to it, so you just kind of do it. And then I start to pick out the notes on the keyboard. And sometimes it might start with guitar melody, because that's usually how I think. So I'll dial up my guitar sound, my faux, keyboard guitar sound, with some delay and stuff. So it sounds, it's, with pitch bend and everything. And I start putting in the notes. A lot of wrong notes, but I'll just throw it in, wrong notes as well, because I know what it's going to be. And then that might be just the first part of the melody. Then I'll go and edit it, get all the wrong notes out, and then maybe put some bass notes in. Sometimes I don't put any chords in. I just want melody and bass. And then I can fill in the chord in between. So so the melody is really supported as opposed to chords and trying to write a melody around the chords, which is very valid. I mean, all of these ways are valid. It's very valid. Go and sit on the drum kit and go boom, that, doot, that, like that, and sing a song over the top. Doesn't matter. But I would say melodically, my strongest melodies come from melody first, and that's what I'm thinking. And sometimes now Protocol is a 5-piece, so now I'm writing for horn as well.
Horn.
I might think, this is a soprano melody. This would be great for that. So that is maybe where I start. I write in sections. I might write an A section. That's great. I may not know what the B section is for a week. And I just, put it away and then maybe work on something else and then come back to it with different ears and go, ooh, what if we go here? And that's when I'll start getting more chordy. And go, because now you need to change from this even key, maybe do a key change, or from this chord to this chord, and it's a slow process, but I build up a whole, and then once I've kind of got the form, only then do I go and play a drum kit.
Wow.
I don't play any drums up to that. Sometimes I might program some drums. I'll just do that quickly, very simple, really simple stuff. Because I don't want to influence yet how I want to play it. But then once I've got it, I just put the click on, mute the whatever drum programming I've done, and then play along to it. And that tells me, is this the right tempo? Because it's a sequencer plays music at any tempo, and this is often the problem when you do sessions. You download the files, you put it in, and as soon as I go out, put my headphones, I go, this song's at the wrong tempo. It's it's right in between here and here.
Wow.
And not to mention, so many songs are at 120, because I wonder whether people know how to change tempo in Pro Tools. So it comes up as 120.
Yes.
I'm being a bit mean there. But that's so important. And I'll play it and I'll go, no, this is wrong. And I might just play it on my own. I go, right, it needs to be a little bit slower. So then I change the tempo, then I go out again and I go, yes, this is great. This is the good tempo. So now, you see how I mean? It's kind of a process of elimination and then process of just progress, really. And that's how it works. Yeah.
Incredible. A lot of people are asking when it's going to be released. I'm sure Simon will be announcing that very, very soon.
That's the problem with with COVID and no tours.
Right.
I really need to make sure that I have a tour booked, and usually European tour, in order to have a release date. So
Right.
I'm hoping it's going to be next year, and I'm hoping it's going to be early next year and not late next year.
Right.
So I've got a few months to mix it and do all the artwork and all the other stuff that needs to be done. But I'm
Right.
keeping my fingers crossed.
Awesome. So Simon, one last question about India. I know you were here some years back. I was very fortunate to be with you then. How was your experience playing at Ustad Zakir Hussein's father's
Uh,
Barsi? And I was like, I know all the stories and the amazing time I got to spend with you. But if you can just give us a little brief idea to our fans out here.
well, it was amazing. I had wanted to come to India for many years, because I love the music. I love I love the food. I'm English. I grew up in London, and back in the 70s, the only food to go out to eat was Indian. If you wanted a decent meal, it's beautiful,
Wow.
and we're very lucky. We get great food there. But I think also, and I think I think Trilok had something to do with that as well. I think Trilok and Zakia spoke, and Trilok said, "You should get Simon over." So, and it was absolutely lovely, and Zakia was the most incredible host. Frankly, at that concert, I just felt overwhelmed, because I'd seen just so many amazing musicians playing, and I was like, "Oh wow, now I've got to try and play." Yikes. Obviously, I wish I had my drum kit, because the drum kit I had is a very low edition of a Tama kit, and
Right.
the tones, I didn't have my tone. They're very thin, so that was a little tough. I was wishing I had my Star Classic kit, obviously,
Right.
um, but it was very, very humbling, but enormously educational. It was fantastic. And then when Zakia came out with his tabla to play with me, and actually I didn't know anything about, this was a surprise, and he was tuning his tabla. And there's one of the guys that was looking after me, a guy called Abhishek. I don't know if you know him.
Yes. Yes,
He,
Abhishek.
right? He asked me, he said, "Do you know what what he was doing when he was tuning the tabla?" And I went, "No, it was taking an awful long time." He said, "He was tuning it to your snare drum."
Uh,
And I went, "Oh, wow, that's amazing." It's just a whole different way to
yes.
approach something. And then he started this thing in 5, and I played in 5 many times, but for some reason it was just a different kind of 5. So it took a bit of a while to get used to, but it was great.
Right.
And George Brooks came out, and they played a song that they know and I didn't know. So it was like, wow, okay. And then everybody came out, and John McLaughlin was sitting right next to me, and one of my dreams since I was a kid was to play with John, and we didn't really play. I mean, we jammed a little bit, but
Right.
it was absolutely beautiful. And then I got to see a few sites of India. I went to Taj Mahal and the Golden Temple, the Paki border, and just experienced a little bit. And also somebody taught me a little bit of ta takita, the Koniko. So I
Yes.
wrote it all down on my iPhone.
But I remember taking you to the Elephanta Caves. I don't know if you remember that.
Did we go on a boat?
Yes, we took a boat to
Yes,
the Elephanta Cave. It was like a 1 hour like a ferry to there,
yes,
and then we.
yes. Oh, hey, was it you that
So
taught me the tata?
yes, yes, yes.
Ah,
I'd written down it for you like in a piece of paper.
yes, you did. Well, I copied it into my notes here, and what I did was, I know this is probably totally wrong in terms of how to learn Koniko, but
Right.
I'm trying to find it. What I did in order to facilitate a way of learning it, yeah, I can't find it right now, but what I did was I just sang each one like 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Ta ta taka 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 dimi,
Takita, taka dimi, taka takita. Yeah.
and counted like this, right?
Yes.
And they got faster, and then I would shift it. So instead of start like ta taka 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 dimi taka tiki taka 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 like that, I went 3, 4. Ta taka 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 like that, you know.
1/16 note basically, yeah.
1/16, yes. And it was great to get my brain to work, and then backwards. So start with 10.
Yes.
Taka 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 taka, you know, like that. And it was just a way for me to learn, because I had no one else to really teach me and to give me exercises. So oh yeah, I never forgot that. That's beautiful. So no, it was a absolutely
Thank you.
It was a wonderful, wonderful trip, and I really thought I'd be back since. You know, I thought I would have visited India, you know, maybe a couple of years later, but haven't had a chance. And I really want to bring protocol over there, because
that'd be incredible to have protocol out here in Mumbai and Delhi and different cities for sure.
Yeah, I think people would love it. You know, so I'm hoping when all this COVID stuff gets under control and you know, we all get through it, I hope that's going to be a possibility. Really do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Simon. Once again, you know, I've taken a little extra time today, but I really wanted to ask you these questions and stuff. But once again, a big thank you from Zildjian India and myself, you know, for giving us this time and being there for the finale episode of the season 2. Thank you so much, Simon. I hope to see you there soon.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I've seen quite a few people I recognize. So thank you.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. Right. See you, Simon. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care. Take care. Bye-bye.